Welcome, traveler. You've found your way to Dark Bites. It's warm here, or at least it feels that way, until you start to listen a little too closely to what's waiting underneath the quiet. Tonight's stories come from the long, frozen highways of the American Midwest, where truckers drive through blizzards so thick, the world outside their windshield disappears. 3 hours of true encounters from men and women who learned that sometimes, the whiteout hides more than just snow. These aren't tales about monsters, not really. They're about the things that follow headlights, the voices that call through static, and the roads that were never meant to be driven twice. Most people who hear these stories keep them playing in the background, until something small, a noise, a breath, a whisper, makes them realize they're not alone anymore. So before we begin, consider this your warning. If you make it to the end, you might not sleep as easily as you planned. And while you're here, I'll ask what I always ask. What time is it where you are right now? And where are you listening from tonight? Tell me in the comments. I always like to know how far the dark travels. Now, let's begin. The wipers couldn't keep up. Each sweep smeared more than it cleared, and the glass kept frosting over like the night was trying to seal me in. I'd been driving 16 hours straight through the Midwest, the kind of night where the snow isn't just falling, it's swallowing. The headlights caught nothing but white blur, and the highway lines were gone. Everything on road, sky, world, and looked exactly the same. I should have pulled over hours ago, but I couldn't. Not after what I'd seen in my mirrors back near Fargo. It started subtle. I thought I saw another rig behind me. Dim lights, a silhouette in the blowing snow. Every few minutes, those lights would fade, then reappear. At first, I figured it was another driver fighting the same blizzard. But after about 30 miles, I realized something that made my stomach turn. No matter how fast or slow I went, that truck never got closer, never fell back. Always the same distance, two hazy yellow glows floating in the mirror like eyes. The heater was blasting, but my hands felt cold on the wheel. I cracked the window to wake myself up, and the storm screamed through the cab, a dry, icy shriek that stung my skin. The wind carried this low, almost human hum, like someone moaning out in the dark fields. I slammed the window back shut. The sound didn't stop right away. It faded, like it had come from inside the truck. That's when I turned off the radio. The silence hit too hard. All I could hear was the engine's hum and the occasional creak of ice shifting on the trailer. My GPS lost signal hours ago, so I was running blind. No exit signs, no road markers, just a 2-lane void and snow piling thick enough to bury anything that stopped moving. I kept glancing at the clock. 1:42 a.m. Dispatch said to push through till morning, hit a rest stop near Bismarck. But something about the road felt wrong. It wasn't just the storm, it was the way it twisted. I'd driven I-94 100 times, and this section, this didn't exist. The slopes were off. The turns sharper. It was like someone had stretched the road out into some new shape while I wasn't looking. When I checked the mirror again, the headlights were gone. Just black behind me. I exhaled and told myself it was fine, that the other driver must have turned off. Maybe found shelter. That's when the radio crackled back to life. A voice broke through, soft, broken, barely audible under the static. Breaker, anyone? On I-94. Can you hear me? I froze. The channel was dead before. I hadn't touched the dial. Copy that? I said, trying to sound calm. You stuck out here too? More static. Then faintly, don't stop. No matter what you see. My heart stopped beating for a second. What did you say, hello? Static hissed back at me, louder now until it filled the cab like a scream. I twisted the volume down and the sound cut off, mid-breath. The road curved again, sharper this time. I leaned forward trying to spot the next reflector post, but the beam only hit swirling snow. Then just for a second and I saw it, a figure in the road. I slammed the brakes. The trailer fishtailed, tires skidding, the entire rig screaming across the ice. The headlights caught a shape. A man standing dead center on the highway. Heavy coat, head tilted, one arm raised like he was trying to flag me down. The truck slid past him by inches. When I looked in the side mirror, there was no one there, no footprints, no shadow. Just white wind blowing across the empty asphalt. I sat there, trembling, trying to breathe. The air smelled like antifreeze and fear. I told myself it was exhaustion, a hallucination from no sleep. But something inside me, the deep animal part, whispered that it wasn't. The CB crackled again. This time, just breathing. Slow, labored. Then, you almost hit me. I turned the radio off completely. I kept driving. The storm didn't let up, it just got heavier. Snow piled so high it scraped the undercarriage. The dashboard lights were the only color left in the world. Green digits, red needles, and the rhythmic thump of wipers beating time to my panic. Around 2:30, I saw lights ahead. Dim, orange, flickering. Like a gas station or a truck stop fighting to stay alive through the storm. Relief flooded me. Civilization. I hadn't seen another vehicle for hours. As I got closer, I realized something off. There were no signs, no billboards, no service lights above the pumps, just a single half-collapsed canopy and a flickering fluorescent tube buzzing like an insect. I pulled in anyway. My tires crunched through frozen slush. The place looked ancient. Pumps from the 70s, glass cracked, numbers rusted over. The windows of the convenience store were frosted white from the inside. Inside. I don't know why that word hit me so hard. I hadn't been inside anywhere since yesterday morning. My whole world had shrunk to the cab of this truck, the endless snow and the voice on the radio. I killed the engine. The sudden silence was deafening. The wind howled, pressing against the cab, trying to get in. I could feel the cold seeping through the metal. My breath fogged thick in front of me. I told myself I'd just check the pumps. Maybe they still had power. Maybe there was a phone. When I stepped out, my boots sank deep into snow. The sound was crisp, too crisp, like the world was empty enough to echo it back. I walked toward the glass doors. My flashlight beam cut through the frost and I saw movement inside. A shadow passed by the counter. I froze mid-step. "Hello?" I shouted, voice cracking from the cold. "Hey, I'm stuck out here." My radio's down, no answer. The shadow moved again and slower this time. It looked like a person leaning forward, pressing their face close to the inside of the glass. But there was something wrong with the shape. The head was tilted too far. The shoulders were uneven, twisted, like bones set in the wrong places. I stepped back. The figure mirrored me, stepping back too. That's when I realized I was looking at my own reflection, except I wasn't moving. My reflection was, I stumbled backward, heart pounding. My flashlight slipped and hit the snow, spinning its beam across the pumps. The reflection stayed there, frozen mid-smile. I bolted back to the truck. The moment I slammed the door, the radio hissed again, loud and sharp like it had been waiting for me. "You saw it," the voice said. It wasn't a question, I didn't answer. Then it said, "You're on the old highway now." I tried to respond to ask what that meant, but the signal cut out again. The screen on my CB flashed random numbers, 11794, 117, like it was looping. I jammed the truck into gear and floored it. The headlights caught the snow, then the empty road ahead. Behind me, through the side mirrors, I saw something flicker. Not light exactly, but motion. A shimmer. Like heat waves in the cold. The gas station was gone. Completely gone. Just flat snow. And in the reflection of the side mirror, the man I'd almost hit was sitting in my passenger seat. I swerved so hard I nearly rolled the rig. When I turned to look, the seat was empty. The only sound was my heartbeat and the steady hum of the tires. By 3:10 a.m., the storm turned brutal. The snow wasn't falling anymore, it was flying sideways. My visibility was maybe 20 feet. I couldn't tell if I was still on the highway. Then I saw lights again. 2 of them, yellow, behind me, the same distance, same height, same impossible consistency. I pressed the accelerator. The needle climbed. 55, 65, 70, the lights stayed. They didn't fall back or close in, just hovered there like someone matching my every move. Then one of them blinked out. Not faded. Not blocked by snow. Just gone. The remaining light drifted to the center of the road, almost like it was pulling ahead. I watched, terrified as it grew brighter, until it wasn't behind me anymore. It was in front, and that's when I realized it wasn't a headlight. It was a lantern. Someone was walking down the middle of the highway holding it. I slammed the horn. The sound blasted through the storm, but the figure didn't react. I tried to swerve around. The tires hit black ice and everything spun. The world turned white and then black. Then the crash came like thunder. The truck jackknifed, slammed into something solid, and stopped dead. My head hit the window. For a long second, I just sat there, dazed, tasting blood. When I finally looked up, the lantern light was right outside the windshield. A face leaned close, pale and wet with snow, staring in at me. It was me, but older, eyes hollow, skin grayed, a small twisted smile. The figure mouthed something I couldn't hear. Then the light went out and the world went black. I woke to silence. No wind, no engine, no snow against the glass. Outside was still and unnaturally still. I opened the door and stepped out. My boots hit bare asphalt. The storm was gone. The air was dead calm. Behind me, the trailer was bent at an impossible angle, its rear half buried in something that looked like ice but glowed faintly blue. No trees. No lights, no horizon. Just empty highway stretching in both directions, flat and endless. When I checked my phone, the clock said 3:11, same as before the crash. Battery still full, no signal. I turned in a slow circle trying to find a landmark, but the only thing I saw was a single green highway sign lying half buried in the snow a few feet away. I brushed it off and froze. It read, U.S. Route 94, decommissioned 1993. The air didn't move. No wind, no sound, no trace of the blizzard that had nearly killed me a few minutes before. The snow looked sculpted, like someone had poured plaster over the world and left it there to harden. Every step I took crunched too loud, echoing down the empty highway until it felt like the sound was coming back from miles away. I stood there for a long time, staring at the old sign. Decommissioned 1993. I whispered it out loud just to hear a human voice. It didn't sound right in the air. Flat, hollow, like the cold had swallowed it. The truck looked wrong too. The trailer was bent, the taillights dim but still glowing. The cab door hung slightly open, creaking in a breeze that didn't exist. I told myself to stay calm, check for damage, get bearings, do something practical. But every time I tried to think, something whispered underneath my thoughts. You shouldn't be here. The sound wasn't words exactly, more like the memory of words. I climbed back into the cab. My seat was cold and wet. The windshield was clear now, no frost, no cracks, but the world outside was still a flat sheet of gray. The dashboard lights flickered on by themselves. The radio crackled once, then steady breathing came through. I didn't move. Then a voice said quietly, "Keep driving." It was my voice. I jerked the power knob off, but the sound didn't stop. The breathing continued, soft and wet, like someone sitting in the passenger seat. Slowly, I turned my head, empty seat. But there was a smell. Something faint and sweet like antifreeze and old tobacco. The same smell my dad used to have in his truck before he died. I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles went white. "Okay," I muttered. "I'm dreaming." Or I hit my head, "Just stay focused." I started the engine. The hum came back immediately, smooth, steady. Too steady, no rumble, no vibration. Just this low, continuous tone that felt more like electricity than a diesel motor. I put it in gear and started forward. The road was straight, perfectly straight. No signs, no mile markers, just black asphalt and endless pale light. The sky didn't have stars or clouds, it just glowed. After a few minutes, I noticed something strange. The odometer wasn't moving. 0.0 miles. The needle didn't twitch. Then I saw the shadow. It was long and thin, stretching across the highway a few yards ahead. At first I thought it was a tree line, but there weren't any trees. It moved slightly, swaying like it was breathing. I eased off the gas. The truck rolled slower until I was almost idling. My headlights slid across the shape, and for a heartbeat I saw what it really was. A row of figures, dozens of them, standing perfectly still in the snow. Men, women, maybe even kids. All facing the same direction, all looking down the highway. Their faces were pale and unfocused, like their features had melted. I froze, foot hovering above the brake. The figures didn't move, but their shadows stretched across the road toward me, reaching further every second. Then one of them turned. Not fast, just a slow tilt of the head, like they'd finally noticed me. And once that one moved, the rest followed. All of them turning one by one until 100 eyeless faces were staring straight at my truck. I slammed the accelerator. The tires spun, the engine roared, and then the road swallowed the sound. No skid, no traction, just motion. I flew through the crowd and they vanished. No impact, no resistance, just gone. I looked in the mirror, nothing but the endless road. Then something whispered right next to my ear. You can't drive out of here." For the next hour, I drove without stopping. The light never changed. The temperature didn't either. My body felt like it was moving, but my brain said I was standing still. Eventually, I spotted a green glow ahead. Another sign, small and half buried in frost. I slowed to read it. Mile 117, that couldn't be right. I'd seen that number before, and the CB flashing 117.94, 117. I stopped the truck. The silence slammed into me like pressure. I turned the key to cut the engine, but it kept running. The key didn't move. That's when I heard it. A low, dragging scrape on the passenger side, like something sliding metal over ice. I turned slowly. The window fogged in one perfect circle, and a handprint appeared from the outside. 5 long fingers pressing into the frost, then pulling away. I couldn't breathe. My throat went dry. I reached for the light switch, but it flipped on by itself. The cab filled with a pale glow. Not warm yellow, but cold fluorescent blue. There was someone standing outside the window. He wore a torn parka, hood down. His skin was gray, waxy. Frost had crystallized in his beard. His eyes were open, staring directly at me. And his mouth. It was moving. I rolled the window down an inch before I realized how insane that was. The voice that came through wasn't right. It sounded stretched, like it was being forced through an old recording. "You missed the turn," he said. I swallowed hard. "What turn?" The man didn't answer. His lips kept moving, but now there was no sound. His eyes started to leak, not tears, but thin trails of dark water freezing as they fell. Then he smiled. And the sound of the radio came on again, my own voice whispering, "You already took it." The man's smile widened until his cheeks split open. I hit the gas, tires screaming, snow flying. When I looked again, the window was empty. I drove until my brain stopped working. The same landscape repeated on a flat plain, a long road, a faint blue glow. Then, finally, something new appeared. A rest stop, at least it looked like one. I pulled in slow. The lights flickered above the lot. 2 vending machines stood against a brick wall, one shattered. The sign above the door read, "Westbound 94, rest area." I killed the engine and sat there. The quiet was thick. My hands shook as I reached for the handle. Inside, the air was colder than outside. The walls dripped with condensation. My flashlight beam swept over cracked tiles and old posters that looked 20 years faded. There was a bulletin board covered in frost, a payphone on the wall, and a row of bathroom doors. The first door was open. Inside, the mirror was shattered, but the sink dripped slowly, a perfect rhythm. Drip, drip, drip. When I turned to leave, something caught my eye. A logbook on the counter near the door. Pages soaked, ink smeared, but I could make out a few words. March 4, 1993. Blizzard closed both lanes. 3 rigs missing. Highway shut down indefinitely. My stomach dropped. I flipped another page. March 6th. Troopers found wreckage. No bodies, only footprints. All leading east. I dropped the book. The sound echoed too long, bouncing through the building like the walls were hollow. Then someone coughed behind me. I turned. A man stood in the hallway, wearing an old trucker's jacket, patches faded. His skin had that same gray tone, his lips pale blue. He looked almost human. "You broke down?" he asked, voice dry, cracking like paper. "Yeah," I managed. "Wrecked about a mile back." He nodded slowly. "You shouldn't have stopped here." "They'll find you." My pulse jumped. "Who?" He didn't answer. He just turned and walked toward the bathroom at the end of the hall. The door creaked shut behind him. I stood there for a full minute before I followed. The light inside flickered once, then steadied. The room was empty. No footprints in the dust, no door on the other side, just a mirror. A new one, whole, and in it, I wasn't alone. There was someone behind me in the reflection. A man. My father. He looked exactly how I remembered him the night before his crash 30 years ago. Same jacket, same gloves, same small smile. I turned around fast. Empty. When I looked back, the reflection had changed. Now it wasn't him, it was me. Older, frozen, dead-eyed, and it was whispering. I leaned closer, breath fogging the glass. The whisper got clearer. "You never left that night, kid. None of us did." My reflection smiled, and its breath frosted the mirror from the inside. I stumbled backward. The lights flickered, the walls moaned, and I ran. Out through the hall, across the lot, back into the truck. My hands shook so bad I dropped the keys twice before jamming them in. The engine roared to life. I threw it in reverse, tires spinning on ice. I didn't care which direction anymore, and I just needed off that road. But as I pulled out, the headlights hit the rest stop building one last time. And there, painted across the bricks, I saw words written in huge black letters. "Welcome back, Route 94. Then the lights blew out, and the voice in the passenger seat said quietly, "You finally made it to the Ghost Mile." The cab felt smaller the moment I shut the door, like the cold had seeped in with me, thickening the air, pushing against my skin. My breath fogged and hung in front of my face for too long before fading. I kept both hands on the wheel even though the truck wasn't moving. The radio was still dead, but I could hear something under the silence. A faint ticking. Not the engine. Not the heater. A clock only. There wasn't a clock in the cab. The ticking grew louder, steady, mechanical, too slow for a second hand. I looked around. The sound was coming from the passenger seat. From under it. I leaned over carefully and reached beneath the seat. My fingers brushed metal in the smooth cold. I pulled it out, a pocket watch, old brass cracked glass face. The second hand was broken off completely, and the minute hand twitched every few seconds like it was trying to move but couldn't. When I turned it over, something was carved on the back. Property of H. Dalton, March 1993. I dropped it instantly. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Harold Dalton, that was my father's name. The wind picked up outside, faint at first, then stronger. The entire truck creaked. The air smelled like burned rubber and diesel fumes. The same smell I remembered the night the troopers came to our door and told my mom his rig had vanished during a blizzard. I picked the watch up again. "It was warm, Dad." I said it without thinking, without meaning to. My voice sounded small, swallowed by the cab. The watch clicked once, then the CB radio came alive. Not static. Not voices. Music. A country song I hadn't heard in years. One my father used to hum on long drives. Tinny and warped like it was being played through water. I turned the volume down, but the song kept playing, faintly echoing from somewhere behind the seat. That's when I noticed the window. Someone had written words in the fog from the inside. "Keep driving." I wiped at the glass. Nothing there. But when my hand dropped, the letters came back, darker, thicker, like they'd been written underneath the frost itself. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my teeth. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, fine." I put it in drive and rolled forward. The road stretched endlessly again, but this time it looked different. Faint outlines appeared on either side. Telephone poles, old and leaning. Fences half buried in snow. I hadn't seen any of this before. The radio music faded. Another voice slipped in beneath it. One I hadn't heard in 30 years. "Hey, kiddo," my father said. "I nearly drove off the road." "Dad? Glad you made it this far," he said, calm, gentle, just like I remembered. "Don't pull over. Whatever happens, don't stop till the road ends." Tears burned my eyes. "What's happening to me?" He didn't answer. The radio hissed and cut out again, leaving only the hum of the engine. Then from behind me a soft thud, like someone tapping the back of the cab. I froze. Another tap. Then another, slow, deliberate, evenly spaced. I checked the mirrors. The trailer lights glowed red against the dark, but there was something else, just barely visible between the flashes. A figure walking along the center line. I pressed the gas harder. 45, 50, 60, the tapping didn't stop. It got louder, faster, like it was climbing the trailer hand over hand. My chest felt tight. The radio popped again. "Don't stop," my father's voice said, rougher this time. "They'll get inside if you stop." I didn't ask who they were. I just drove. The thuds climbed from the back of the trailer to the roof. I could hear boots scraping metal overhead. Snow sifted down through the air vents like ash. Then something heavy landed on the hood. I screamed and hit the brakes out of pure instinct. The truck skidded sideways, fishtailing hard. The headlights caught a blur of gray and black before the whole world tilted. The sound of shattering glass filled the cab, then silence. When I opened my eyes, the truck was sideways in a ditch. The windshield was cracked but not broken through. The headlights pointed up at the sky, flat gray, no stars, no sun. I could still hear the ticking of that damn watch. Tick, tick, tick. Slowly, I looked toward the passenger seat. Someone was sitting there. He looked almost like me. Same face, same jacket, even the same small scar under his chin, but his eyes were darker, deeper, like there was no light behind them. He smiled. "You stopped." I couldn't speak. He leaned closer, voice low, almost kind. "You shouldn't have stopped, kid." I pushed the door open and stumbled out into the snow. My boots sank deep, the cold slicing straight through my jeans. I ran without looking back, just running down the empty highway until my lungs burned. When I finally stopped, I realized the sound had changed again. No wind, no engine. Just footsteps in mine and another set behind me. Slow, heavy. I turned around. The road was empty, but the snow behind me showed two sets of prints. One of them stopped 20 feet back. The other kept going, right up to where I stood, and they didn't match my boots. I walked for what felt like hours. The landscape never changed. The same telephone poles, the same fences. I started counting them just to stay sane. After the 37th pole, I saw light ahead, faint orange glowing through the mist. My heart jumped, maybe another stop, maybe people. I ran. The light came from a small diner. Neon sign half lit. Maggie's Diner, open 24 hours. I pushed through the door, a bell jingled. Warm air hit my face, the first warmth I'd felt in days. The smell of coffee and bacon. It felt real. A woman stood behind the counter, her back to me, wiping a mug. "Rough night?" she asked without turning. "Yeah," I said, my voice shaking. "You could say that. Sit anywhere you like." I slid into a booth near the window. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely hold the menu. The paper was yellowed, edges curled. All the prices were in dollars and cents I hadn't seen since the 90s. When she finally turned around, I froze. She looked wrong. Her smile was too wide, like it had been drawn on. Her skin was pale, her eyes distant, glassy. She poured coffee into my cup even though I hadn't asked. "Cold out tonight," she said. "Yeah," I whispered. "Real bad storm," she nodded. "You're lucky to still be on the road. Most folks got caught out there 30 years back." I looked up. "What do you mean?" She didn't answer right away. She just stared at me for a long time, then said softly, "You look just like one of them." "One of who?" "The truckers that disappeared when 94 froze over. They say sometimes the road opens again, pulls in the ones who don't believe it's gone." I felt the blood drain from my face. "That's not funny." Her smile didn't change. "I'm not laughing." I looked around. The diner was empty. No sound but the ticking of the wall clock. Then I realized it was ticking in perfect rhythm with the pocket watch still in my jacket. I reached into the pocket. The watch was gone. When I looked up, the waitress was standing right next to the booth. Too close. She leaned down, eyes locked on mine. "He's still waiting for you, you know." "Out there." I shoved past her and bolted for the door. Outside, the diner lights flickered once, then the entire building vanished. I stood in the middle of the road again. Nothing around me but white light and my own breath. And from behind, the CB radio in my truck crackled to life again. My father's voice clearer this time. "You're getting close." Just one more mile, I turned. The truck was there again, perfectly parked on the shoulder like it had never moved. The door opened on its own. Inside, the dashboard lights pulsed like a heartbeat. The voice came one last time. "Come on, kid. Let's finish the route." And for the first time in my life, I was too tired to run. I climbed back inside. The air felt heavier now, thick and still. The road ahead shimmered faintly, bending upward in the distance like the horizon was curling. I gripped the wheel, turned the key, and the engine roared. The radio dial spun on its own until it stopped on static. Through the noise, a whisper, "Mile 118. The radio kept whispering Mile 118 over and over, like a heartbeat trying to keep time with the road. The sound filled the cab, soft, rhythmic, too calm for what it meant. I couldn't see the mile markers anymore. They'd stopped miles ago. Everything outside the windshield shimmered in pale gray light that didn't belong to any time of day. The snow wasn't falling. It wasn't even moving. It hung in the air like dust caught in a photograph. I should have turned back. I should have stopped. But I couldn't. The wheel pulled forward on its own like the truck had already decided where it was going. The CB crackled again. "Almost there," my father said. His voice sounded tired now. Not ghostly, not threatening, just weary. "Keep it steady. Don't brake." "Where am I going?" I asked. My voice broke halfway through the sentence. "Dad, please, where does it end?" He didn't answer. Just breathing, soft and uneven. Outside, the horizon changed. The road started to slope down, bending into a long descent through fog so thick it looked solid. For a second, I thought I saw headlights down there. Maybe another truck, maybe help. I pushed the pedal harder. The world blurred. My stomach dropped as the truck picked up speed 60, 70, 80. The lines on the road returned, glowing faintly under the tires like veins of light. I didn't know if I was driving into something or out of it. Then, out of nowhere, a figure stepped into the lane. I slammed the brakes. The truck screamed, tires locking. The cab shook so hard I thought it would flip. The headlights lit up a man standing perfectly still in the middle of the road, his hands at his sides. When the truck stopped, he didn't move. The light hit his face, and I felt my heart collapse. It was me, not older this time. Not younger. Exactly me. Same jacket, same bloodshot eyes, same trembling breath. He stared through the glass. I couldn't tell if he was angry or afraid. He stepped closer. His boots didn't make a sound on the pavement. When he reached the hood, he leaned down until our eyes met through the windshield. "Turn off the engine," he said. The voice came from both outside and inside the cab. I shook my head. "I can't," he tilted his head in my head and slightly. "You already did." I looked at the dash. The key was gone. The gauges were dead. The engine wasn't running, but the truck was still moving. Slowly, silently, gliding forward. The other me started walking alongside the cab, keeping pace, his eyes locked on mine. "This is where it ends," he said softly. "You've been here since the storm." "That's not true." My voice cracked. "I crashed, I walked, he smiled. "You never got out." The snow around him shifted, and for the first time I saw what was really there. Tire marks frozen into the ice, deep grooves where the truck had jackknifed. A crumpled cab half buried in white, my cab. The windshield shattered, roof caved in, and inside, slumped over the wheel, was me. The air left my lungs. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. The other me leaned closer to the window. "You've been driving the same mile since the crash. You just didn't want to see it." I tried to speak, but my throat locked. The cab was freezing now. Frost crept up the glass from the corners inward. The mirrors fogged. The radio hissed again, my father's voice breaking through the static, faint and desperate. "Son, it's time to come home." I looked out at the wreck, at the road, at the man who was me. "What happens if I stop?" I whispered. The other me smiled, small, sad, tired. "Then maybe it finally ends." The lights dimmed. The world slowed. I let my hands fall from the wheel and the truck stopped. Silence. The fog outside cleared, and for the first time I saw the sky. Dark, full of stars. The snow glittered like glass shards under the moon. The wreck was gone. The road was empty. I opened the door. The cold hit me hard, sharp, clean, real. My boots sank into fresh powder. I stood there breathing, trying to make sense of the stillness. Then I saw him, my father, standing by the edge of the road. Same parka, same gloves, same faint smile. "Dad," I whispered. He nodded once. "You did good, kid. Most never get this far." I wanted to ask what that meant, but my throat wouldn't work. He reached out a hand. I took a step forward, and for a second I felt warmth, something deep and steady, like the world itself had taken a breath. Then headlights appeared behind him. A truck, newer, real, barreling fast down the road through the dark. I shouted and waved, but the driver couldn't see me. The lights passed right through both of us, cutting clean through the air like fog. When I turned back, my father was gone. The only thing left was the old pocket watch lying in the snow. It was still ticking. I picked it up, opened it, and for the first time the hands had moved. The minute hand pointed to 12. The hour hand to 3 a.m. the same time I crashed. The ticking slowed, then stopped. I don't know how long I stood there. Eventually the snow started again, soft, silent, endless. I climbed back into the cab even though I knew it wasn't really there. The seats were dry. The windshield was whole. The dashboard lights flickered faintly like an old heartbeat trying to start again. The CB radio came on one last time. A voice, mine, but distant. "Breaker 19. Anyone out there on 94? Another voice answered. "Yeah, I hear you." You caught in that blizzard too? A pause. Yeah, my voice said. Can't see a thing out here. The static swallowed everything after that. Sometimes when the snow starts falling on I-94, drivers swear they see lights where there shouldn't be any. A truck sitting on the shoulder, engine idling, cab empty. They say if you look close enough, you can see a man in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead, waiting for a road that never ends. If you listen real close on the CB, you might hear him too. A tired voice asking the same question over and over. Breaker. Anyone still out here on the highway? And if you answer, the storm never ends. The first time I heard her, I thought it was just the wind playing tricks through the CB. You learn to ignore strange sounds when you're a long-haul driver, especially in the Midwest during a storm. The blizzard that night was bad enough to make the highway feel endless, and the snow came down so thick it looked like static, like the world itself had lost signal. But the voice, that was different. It wasn't the wind. It was too clean, too close. Help me. Please. Soft, trembling. A woman. Young, maybe mid-20s. It came through channel 19, the common frequency for truckers. At first I thought she was calling from another rig. A breakdown, maybe. I'd heard distress calls before, but this one felt wrong. She wasn't calling for someone. She was calling at someone. Is anyone out there? I'm near mile marker 117. My car's static swallowed the rest. My hands tightened around the wheel. I was somewhere between Jamestown and Bismarck, hauling produce west. Mile marker 117 would have been maybe 20 miles up. I turned the CB volume higher. Come again? I said, you said mile 117? You stranded? No response. Just a soft crackle, then breathing, slow, uneven. Hello? I tried again. Nothing, then faintly. Don't let them find me. I froze. The hair on my arm stood up. Before I could say anything else, the signal went dead. Outside, the blizzard was choking the road. The wipers couldn't keep up. Snow built in uneven mounds along the shoulder, hiding the guardrails and ditches. The radio went quiet except for a low hiss, the kind that sounds almost like whispering if you listen too long. I told myself it was nothing. Probably a prank or a bad connection, maybe someone rebroadcasting an old signal. I'd heard weirder stuff on the road, but 20 minutes later I saw something through the snow. A red car half buried on the right side of the highway. Hazard lights blinking weakly through frost. I slowed down, easing the rig onto the shoulder. My headlights swept across the vehicle. An old Toyota door cracked open. The driver's seat was empty. Jesus, I muttered. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out into the wind. The cold hit like knives. My boots crunched through the snow. The air was so still between gusts that I could hear the soft electronic click of the Toyota's hazards blinking. The footprints in the snow led around to the back of the car, small, light steps, then vanished halfway toward the ditch. Like whoever had been walking just stopped. Hello? I shouted. You call for help? Nothing but wind. The interior of the car was empty. Engine off, keys gone. A single glove on the passenger seat. The smell of perfume and cold metal. Then from somewhere out in the white, I heard it again, that same voice. Don't let them find me. It came from behind me this time. I spun, shining the flashlight across the drifts. Just snow. The wind screamed again, carrying her words farther down the highway, or maybe through the CB speaker in the truck. I couldn't tell anymore. I ran back to the cab and slammed the door shut, my fingers numb and clumsy. The heater hummed loud enough to drown out my heartbeat. I grabbed the mic. Whoever you are, if you're out there, I saw your car. I'm calling Highway Patrol, all right? Just hang tight. But before I could reach for my phone, the CB crackled again. Don't call them. My chest went cold. What? Don't call them. The voice was clearer now, like she was sitting right next to me. Then silence. I sat there for a minute, frozen. My breath fogged the glass. The GPS on my dash glitched, blinking between coordinates. The map showed my position jumping back and forth between mile 115 and 117, like I was driving in circles even though I hadn't moved. The storm outside thickened again, snow hammering the windshield. I turned on my high beams, but they only made the world smaller. And then, in the reflection on the passenger window, I saw her. A woman standing in the snow beside my truck. Not moving. not blinking, just staring up through the glass at me. Her hair was wet, clinging to her face. Her lips were blue. She looked like she'd been out there for hours. I flinched back, but when I looked again, she was gone. I turned on the dome light, heart pounding. My hands shook so badly I could barely grab the mic again. "Who are you?" I shouted into it. "Where are you?" Static, then whispering right in my ear. Not through the speaker, not from outside, inside. "You shouldn't have stopped." The next 30 minutes are a blur. I remember flooring it, pushing the rig back onto the highway, speeding through the whiteout like a maniac. The tires slipped more than once, fishtailing on the ice. I didn't care. I just needed distance. The CB stayed dead quiet the whole time, no matter what channel I switched to. My phone had no signal. The GPS froze on mile marker 117. When the road finally curved downhill, I thought maybe I'd broken free from the storm. I even saw a glow up ahead, a small diner, its neon sign barely visible through the haze. But when I pulled closer, my headlights revealed something else. Another car. Red. Same make. Same position. Half buried in snow. I slammed on the brakes. It was the exact same Toyota. Same dented bumper. Same single glove on the seat. I stared at it for a full minute, my pulse roaring in my ears. I checked the odometer. It hadn't changed. My truck was still reading 0 miles since I'd stopped. At the first car, that's when the CB clicked on. Again. "You shouldn't have stopped," the woman whispered. And from the passenger seat, from right beside me, I heard the soft sound of breathing that wasn't mine. I turned my head slowly. The seat was empty, but the window beside it was fogging from the inside. Words formed in the condensation, shaky and desperate. "Help me." I don't remember screaming, but I must have, because my throat hurt when I finally came back to myself. The storm outside had gone silent again. Not calm, just muted. Like someone had turned the world's volume down. The letters on the glass began to fade, and under them, something new appeared. 5 fingerprints, pressed into the fog, small, cold, still. There. That's when I realized my truck wasn't idling anymore. It was moving, by itself. The wheel turned a few inches on its own, aligning the rig back toward the highway. The engine hummed even though the key wasn't in the ignition, and through the radio came one last whisper before everything went dark. "If you stop again, they'll know where you are." The storm had gone dead quiet again. That strange, suffocating kind of quiet that only happens in blizzards. It was like the snow swallowed every sound before it reached my ears. Even the hum of the engine felt muffled, low, tired, too slow to be real. I didn't know what direction I was moving anymore. The highway had no shape left to it. No center line, no shoulder, no color, just endless gray and white and that soft mechanical heartbeat from the dash. I told myself I had to keep driving. I didn't know why. I just knew that if I stopped again, something bad would happen. Her voice was still in my head, echoing in every breath. "If you stop again, they'll know where you are." Who they were, I didn't want to find out. I focused on the road, or what I thought was the road. My headlights only reached about 15 feet ahead, painting a narrow cone of weak light into the storm. Every time I blinked, I saw her reflection again. Pale face, wet hair, eyes too wide, standing in the snow where she shouldn't be. But she was gone. She had to be gone. Except the passenger seat was still fogged over. The words she'd written, "Help me," had faded. But the moisture remained, and I swore I could still see the outline of her hand pressed against the window. The heater roared, but the cab didn't warm up. My breath fogged the glass in front of me, mixing with hers. That's when the radio clicked again. Click, a soft, static hum. Then, "You're close." I jerked the mic to my mouth. "Who are you?" What the hell is going on? No answer. Just that same slow breathing through the static. "Don't stop." I dropped the mic like it burned me. My skin crawled. I needed to see another car. Another set of headlights, anything that would make this night feel real again. But there was nothing. No one sane was out on this road anymore. The next mile, if it was even a mile, felt like driving through a dream. The snow thickened again, the sky pressing down low enough to make the horizon disappear. Then I saw the sign, half buried in a snowbank, barely visible in my headlights. Mile 117. The numbers were covered in frost, but I could still read them. I hadn't moved at all, or I'd been circling it for hours. I slowed down even though my gut screamed not to. There was a shape up ahead, something sitting right in the middle of the road. For a moment I thought it was another car, then it shifted, moved. A person. She was standing sideways in my headlights, her back to me, hair hanging down to her shoulders. Her coat was torn, one arm limp at her side. The same woman. She wasn't shivering. She wasn't even breathing hard. She just stood there, head tilted slightly toward the ditch like she was listening to something under the snow. I rolled down the window a few inches, the wind cutting into my face instantly. "Hey," I shouted. "You need help?" No response. I grabbed the flashlight and stepped out, boots sinking deep into the slush. "The cold hit so hard it stole my breath, ma'am." Still nothing. When I got within 10 feet, she finally turned her head. Her eyes were glassy and pale, her lips cracked and blue. She looked right through me. Then she whispered, barely loud enough for me to hear over the wind, "He's still here." I blinked. "Who?" She raised one shaking hand and pointed toward the ditch. The flashlight beam followed her gesture, landing on the snow, and I saw it, a dark shape half buried under the drift. At first I thought it was a log. Then the beam caught something metallic, a bumper, the remains of another car, same red Toyota. Every muscle in my body locked. I looked back at her, but she was already moving, slow, staggering steps toward the wreck. "Wait, stop." She didn't. When I reached for her shoulder, my glove passed straight through her arm. The air where she stood felt like ice water. I stumbled back, gasping. My heart felt like it stopped for a second. The woman turned once more to face me, her expression soft now, almost calm. "He won't leave until they stop calling." "Who? Who's calling?" I begged. Her mouth twitched into something between a smile and a grimace. "You heard it too." Then the wind picked up, a violent, howling gust that threw snow in every direction. I covered my face, blinking against the blast, and when I looked again, she was gone. I ran back to the truck, lungs burning. I slammed the door, shaking so hard my teeth rattled. The CB mic was dangling from the dash, swinging slightly. When I grabbed it, the channel was already open. "You shouldn't have stopped," the woman's voice whispered again. I snapped. "What do you want from me?" I shouted. "What the hell do you want?" No response, just soft rhythmic static. Then another voice broke through. A man's this time, low, calm, too calm. She always finds someone new. I froze. "Who is this?" "Mile 117, he said. "You picked her up, didn't you?" The hair on the back of my neck stood up. "What are you talking about?" "They all pick her up. Every few years. Every storm. Who are you?" "Static, then doesn't matter. You'll see soon enough." The signal cut. I sat there breathing hard, staring at the CB, waiting for it to light up again. It didn't. The dashboard clock blinked 3:17 a.m., then faintly, from outside, I heard knocking, 3 slow taps on the passenger door. I turned my head, heart hammering. No one there. Just frost spreading across the window again, curling, twisting shapes forming words. "Don't let him in." The letters froze into the glass, and through the frost, behind the layer of ice, I saw something move. A face. A man's. Pale, sunken eyes staring back at me. He mouthed something I couldn't hear, and then the window cracked down the middle with a sound like a gunshot. I screamed and threw the truck into drive, flooring the pedal. The rig roared forward, skidding slightly before catching traction. The cracked glass spidered further but didn't shatter. The CB hissed once, then her voice again, whispering close and urgent. "Don't stop." Not this time. I drove blind into the white. The snow blurred everything. The road, the sky, even the sound of the engine started to fade. My hands were numb on the wheel. The mile marker flashed by again. The same one. At 17, the same damn sign. I started to cry without meaning to. The sound of it didn't even feel human. Just raw noise ripped from somewhere deep. The radio crackled. "Please," the woman said softly now. "Just make him stop calling." "Who? Who's calling?" I shouted, no answer. "He wants you to stop." The engine began to whine. The temperature gauge flickered erratically. The cab lights dimmed and surged, and then, faintly, through the static, came the sound of a man's voice singing. Low, off-key. A slow country song, the same 3 lines, over and over. "Snow keeps falling. Can't find home again." Mile 117? I knew that song. Every trucker who'd heard the stories did. It was the song a driver named Gary Boyd had been singing over his CB the night he vanished on this same stretch of highway in 1992. They found his rig months later, frozen solid, no trace of him inside. I stared at the radio in disbelief. "You're not real," I whispered. The man's voice laughed softly, dry and broken. "Neither are you. Not anymore." The headlights flickered once and then everything went black. When the lights went out, it wasn't just the truck. It was everything. The engine, the heater, the dashboard, even the snow outside seemed to stop moving. For a second, I thought I'd gone deaf. Then I realized the silence had weight, like the air itself had frozen solid. I tried to breathe, but the cold burned my throat. The cab was pitch black except for the faint green glow of the CB screen. It flickered once, twice, then steadied. The voice came through again, low, humming, like someone testing if the channel was clear. "You're still there." I swallowed hard. "Who are you?" A long pause. "Name's Gary." I froze. My heart started pounding so hard it felt like it was shaking the seat beneath me. "Gary who?" I managed to say. "Gary Boyd, mile 117. The voice had that easy, road-worn tone I'd heard 100 times from older drivers. Calm, tired. Something about it made my skin crawl because it didn't sound angry. "It sounded lonely. I heard about you," I said. You went missing." A dry laugh crackled through the speaker. "Guess that depends who you ask." The glow from the CB flickered again, syncing with the rhythm of his words. Storm got me. Radio was all I had. I called and called, but nobody came. He paused. I could hear faint breathing. Maybe wind, maybe not. Then she answered. My stomach dropped. "She? The woman. She calls for help. Someone always hears her." I glanced at the passenger window, still cracked, the frost thick around the edges. The fingerprints had faded, but I could still see the outline of that word she'd written before. "Help." "You picked her up," Gary said softly. "I didn't." "You stopped," he interrupted. "That's all it takes." The radio hissed louder, like static growing teeth. His voice was getting clearer, stronger. "She's not trying to hurt you, kid. She's just stuck. Same as me. What does she want? Someone to listen?" I looked at the CB mic. My hand was trembling. "Then why tell me not to stop?" Another long pause. When he finally spoke again, his tone had changed. Low, heavy, something darker underneath it. "Because when you stop, they know where to find you." "Who?" I asked, voice shaking. "The ones that built the road." The static flared again, warping his words until they bled into a rising hum that filled the cab. I clapped my hands over my ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't just coming from the speaker anymore. It was coming from everywhere. The vents, the floorboards, the metal walls. It was inside the truck, inside my skull. Then, through the noise, I heard something else. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, crunching in the snow just outside the door. I turned my head, barely breathing. The window was fogging again, but this time from outside. Shapes moved in the frost. Outlines of hands pressing against the glass. Too many hands. Too big. And underneath the static, I heard them whispering. Hundreds of voices layered together, speaking the same phrase in a dozen different tones. Mile 117. Mile 117? It wasn't a warning anymore. It was a chant. I tried to start the truck. The key clicked uselessly in the ignition. Nothing. "Gary!" I shouted into the mic. "What are they?" "They built the road, kid," he said again, voice trembling now. "They keep it fed." The door handle twitched once, twice, then began to turn. "Gary." "If you see the lights again, drive through. Don't look at her. Don't stop." The door latch clicked. The wind outside exploded back to life, howling like something alive. The glass groaned under the pressure. I grabbed the handle from the inside, shoving it shut with all my weight. "Drive, son." Gary's voice boomed through the CB, loud enough to rattle the dash. "Drive now." I turned the key again, and the engine roared back to life. The headlights flared. The world came rushing back. Through the snow ahead, I saw 2 red taillights glowing faintly in the storm. Another truck. Maybe a mile ahead. I slammed the pedal down and followed. The highway straightened again, mile after mile of white and gray. The taillights stayed just far enough ahead that I couldn't see the truck itself. Only the glow cutting through the blizzard. The CB stayed open, static humming like breath between us. "You're doing good," Gary said. "Keep your distance." I didn't respond. My pulse hadn't slowed since the door started moving. My fingers were so stiff I could barely hold the wheel. The air in the cab felt different now. Warmer, thicker, like the truck was breathing with me. Then I noticed something that made my stomach turn. The mile markers. They were counting backward. I was going the wrong way. "Gary, I'm turning around," I said. "Don't," he snapped. "You're still where you started." "I can see the markers. Doesn't matter. This road doesn't run straight anymore." The taillights ahead dimmed, flickered, then disappeared completely. "Gary?" No answer. "Gary!" The CB crackled violently, then went silent. And in that silence, I heard something from behind me, near low, rhythmic tapping against the sleeper door. Tap. Pause. Tap. Tap. I turned slowly, flashlight shaking in my hand. The curtain was closed, swaying slightly with the motion of the truck. "Gary," I whispered. Tap. The curtain rustled. I reached out, heart hammering, and pulled it open. Nothing there, just my duffel bag. A half-empty thermos, my spare coat, then the flashlight beam hit the wall. Scratched into the metal, deep uneven lines, were words. "Drive until you hear her." My hand went cold. I stared at the letters, fresh frost clinging to the grooves. The CB clicked again. "You hear me?" Gary's voice was faint now, like he was far away. "Yeah," I breathed. "Don't stop until she calls again." "What happens when she does?" "Then you decide which one of us you believe." For the next hour, or maybe it was 10 minutes, I couldn't tell, I drove through the storm, chasing a road that refused to end. The GPS was gone. The clock blinked 3:17 again and again, frozen in time. Then just when I thought the silence might finally break me, I heard her. Soft at first, fading in through the static. "Help me." The woman's voice. "The same one, please. Help me." I gripped the mic. My mouth was dry. "Where are you?" "I'm cold." "Where?" "Right here." The headlights caught movement ahead. A figure standing in the road again, same place, same pale outline. Gary's voice came through, urgent. "Don't stop." The woman's voice grew louder, desperate. "Please." "He won't let me go!" I hesitated, just a second. My foot eased off the pedal. The truck lurched, the tires slid, and the lights flickered. "Don't stop," Gary shouted, but I already had. The woman was only a few feet from the hood now. She looked worse. Skin gray, hair frozen to her face. Her eyes were empty. She raised a shaking hand and pointed at me. "He's behind you." I turned instinctively and froze. The sleeper curtain was open again, and standing in the narrow dark behind it was a man's silhouette. Tall, still, watching me. The air in the cab dropped 10 degrees in an instant. My breath fogged thick in front of me. "Gary," I whispered. "There's someone." "Don't look at him," Gary's voice hissed. Too late. The figure stepped forward into the weak light. His face was wrong. Blurred, shifting like heat waves. I could see a driver's jacket, an old patch that read Boyd Transport. "You shouldn't have stopped," he said. I screamed, slammed the gear into drive, and hit the gas. The figure vanished the moment the truck jerked forward like he'd never been there. The CB shrieked with feedback, then went dead. I don't know how long I drove after that. Hours, maybe. The snow never stopped. The world didn't change. Every few miles, the same sign appeared again. Mile 117, and each time the woman's voice called through the radio. Softer and softer. "Help me. He's still here. Don't stop." Until finally there was nothing. Just silence. The kind that feels like waiting. The silence after she stopped calling was worse than the storm itself. No wind, no static, not even the hum of the tires. Just me. Alone. Somewhere on a road that shouldn't exist anymore. I could still see the mile marker up ahead through the snow, that crooked, half-buried green sign that had followed me all night. Mile 117, always mile 1-17. I thought about stopping again, stepping out, letting the cold take me, ending this endless loop. But every time I even eased my foot off the pedal, the temperature inside the cab dropped, like the truck itself was warning me. So I kept driving. I didn't know where the road went. Maybe it didn't go anywhere. Somewhere in the distance I saw a glow, faint, yellow-white, steady. It looked like headlights, 2 of them, close together, motionless. I pressed down harder on the gas. The truck responded slow, heavy, like I was driving through syrup. My breath fogged the glass so thick I could barely see. When I got closer, I realized the lights weren't headlights at all. They were candles, dozens of them, lined along both sides of the road like a vigil, their flames barely flickering in the wind. The snow had stopped falling here. The air was still heavy, like the world was holding its breath. And in the middle of that road between the rows of candles stood the woman, the same one I'd seen a dozen times tonight. The same one I'd heard through the radio. Her coat was gone now, her dress torn, skin pale as frost. She was facing me this time, waiting. I eased the truck to a stop. The engine idled, low and restless. I didn't grab the mic, didn't say a word. I just stared through the windshield, heart thudding slow and dull, watching her lips move. No sound came out. Then the CB clicked on by itself. "He's gone," she whispered. I hesitated. "Gary?" She nodded once, slow, deliberate. He let go. I swallowed hard. My throat felt raw. "What about you?" Her eyes lifted to mine, and for the first time she looked almost alive. "I can't. Not until someone takes my call." The words hit me like ice water. That was it. That's what this was all about. She wasn't haunting the road, and she was the road. The voice that needed someone on the other end. "You called me," I said quietly. "You answered," she said. The candles flickered. The air thickened. My breath started coming faster, my pulse hammering in my ears. "I don't understand what you want from me." "Don't let them forget," she said. "Don't let them build over us." "Who?" "The ones that made this place." The CB hissed again. This time it wasn't her. It was a man's voice, faint, distant but unmistakable. "Gary." "Kid," he said. "If you're hearing this, she's already got you." The woman's face twitched in a small, broken smile. "I told you not to stop." The radio crackled, and Gary's voice rose, desperate now. "She doesn't want help. She wants someone to take her place." The candles flared. The air inside the cab went white-hot for a split second, then plunged into bitter cold. The woman's image flickered, blurring like bad reception. "Help me," she whispered again. Same tone, same rhythm, then louder. A scream breaking through the static. "Help me!" I slammed my hands over my ears. The sound wasn't coming from the radio anymore. It was inside the cab, surrounding me, rattling the glass, shaking the floor. "Stop," I shouted. "Stop it. Help me!" The windshield shattered outward, spraying ice and glass into the storm. I threw my arm over my face. When I looked up again, she was standing in front of the truck, her face inches from the broken glass. Her lips were moving fast, her voice layered, splitting into a dozen others. "Help me. Help me. Help me." Each echo came from a different direction. The CB, the vents, the snow, the air itself, and then all at once, silence. She was gone. I don't remember turning the wheel. All I know is that suddenly the truck was off the road, barreling through the snow, headlights sweeping over a line of trees. I tried to brake, but the pedal was stiff. A black shape loomed ahead, a frozen creek bed cutting across the field. The tires hit the edge, and everything went weightless. There was a sound like the world tearing apart. Metal, glass, wind, snow, and then nothing. Just black. When I came to, I was sitting in the cab, perfectly upright. No pain, no blood. The windshield was whole again. The dashboard lights glowed softly. Outside, the storm had cleared. The sky was silver with early dawn. The truck wasn't in a ditch. It was back on the road, engine idling steady. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd dreamed it all. Then the CB crackled. "Breaker 19, anyone out there on 94? A man's voice, young, nervous. Got a stranded car out near mile 117. Can anyone hear me?" My stomach dropped. I looked out the window. The snow beside the shoulder was untouched except for one small detail. The nose of a red Toyota just visible under the frost. I stared at it for a long time. Then I picked up the mic. "Copy that," I said quietly. "I'm here," the radio hissed. "Who's this?" I looked at my reflection in the window. My eyes were pale, tired. My breath didn't fog the glass anymore. "Just another driver," I said. "Keep moving. Don't stop." The channel went silent. Outside, the snow started to fall again. Soft, steady, endless. They say truckers still hear her voice sometimes, when the wind cuts just right through the CB band. A woman asking for help. A man warning not to stop. And if you ever find yourself near mile marker 117, and you see a pair of faint taillights ahead in a whiteout, don't follow them. Because if you answer her call, you'll never leave the highway. And the next time someone hears that voice through the static, It'll be you. I knew something was wrong when the taillights ahead of me stopped blinking. Out here in the middle of a whiteout on I-90, those faint red lights were all I had. A lifeline in the storm. 4 trucks, all lined up space-tight, moving like one slow animal through the snow. We'd been running together since Fargo, keeping each other from freezing or drifting off the road. But somewhere after midnight, the world went quiet. No CB chatter, no engine hum, just the wind and those red lights until they stopped. At first I thought the lead driver, some old guy named Hank, had slowed for ice. But then his taillights flickered once, twice, and went out, just gone. My headlights cut through nothing but sheets of snow. The road ahead looked like a blank white wall. "Hank?" I said into the mic, my voice shaking. "You still up there?" No response. Static hissed softly for a few seconds, then died. The storm was eating the signal alive. I slowed down to a crawl, keeping my rig steady between the rumble strips. I'd lost count of how many miles we'd covered. It could have been 20 or 200. The GPS had died hours ago, frozen solid on a screen that just said recalculating. The cold was unreal, the kind that seeps through steel and skin into your bones. Every breath hurt. Somewhere behind me, the other trucks should have been visible. At least one set of lights, one shadow. But when I checked the mirror, there was nothing, just endless white. I was alone. The heater whined weakly, blowing air that felt colder than outside. My phone had shut off completely. Battery at 0 even though it was plugged in. The CB crackled once, now just enough to make me jump. Then a voice. "Convoy 6, do you copy?" Relief hit so hard it almost hurt. I grabbed the mic. "Copy, yeah. This is Rafe, rig 0928. I lost visual. What's your 20? Static." Then the voice again, quieter. "We're still rolling." I squinted at the windshield. Couldn't see a damn thing. "Who's we?" "You'll see." That stopped me. The voice wasn't Hank. Too smooth, too calm. "You part of our convoy?" I asked. "Always have been." The CB went dead. The storm thickened until it felt like driving through wet concrete. The snow was no longer falling. It was crawling, sliding sideways across the windshield like it had claws. Then I saw it, a faint red glow ahead. One truck, sitting dead center in the road. Lights on, engine silent. I slowed as I approached, careful not to jackknife. The glow from its taillights painted the snow behind it a deep crimson. It was one of ours, Hank's Peterbilt. "Hank," I shouted into the radio. "You stopped? You good?" "Nothing." I pulled alongside and leaned toward the window, squinting through the frost. Hank was still in the driver's seat, but he wasn't moving. His head was turned toward the side window, his face pressed against the glass. His eyes were wide open. Frost had grown around his mouth and lashes like a second skin. I could tell even through the window. He was frozen solid. My hands went numb on the wheel. "Jesus," I whispered. The CB clicked. "Keep moving." The same calm voice. I looked at Hank's truck. The headlights flickered just once, like a pulse. "Don't stop, Rafe." I dropped the mic. My heart was beating so loud it drowned out the wind. I wanted to floor it, to turn around, to get the hell off that road. But when I looked in my mirror, I saw lights. 3 sets of headlights. They weren't behind me a minute ago. Now they filled the highway, lined up perfectly, silent and slow, the rest of the convoy. Only, it wasn't moving like trucks should. No tire spray. No engine roar. Just steady lights sliding through the snow. I pressed the pedal and the truck lurched forward. My tires spun on ice before catching traction. I passed Hank's frozen rig and merged back into my lane. The headlights followed, perfectly spaced, not gaining, not falling back. It didn't make sense. Nobody should have been able to drive in that whiteout without seeing my brake lights. Nobody should have been that quiet. I flicked the CB back on. "Whoever's behind me, sound off." Nothing. The wind outside howled, a deep, steady note that almost sounded like breathing. 15 minutes later, I tried the radio again. My voice was shaking. "Convoy 6 to all units, this is Rafe, you copy?" Static, then, faintly, a whisper. "We're still rolling." My stomach dropped. It was the same voice, not one of ours. "Stay with us." I turned the volume down, pulse hammering in my neck. The headlights behind me flickered once, synchronized, like a blink. Then they grew brighter as if the trucks were speeding up. Hell no. I pressed harder on the gas, engine groaning. The speedometer climbed past 50. The lights stayed right behind me, same distance, same formation. When I glanced at my left mirror, I froze. The first truck in the line wasn't on its tires anymore, it was floating, half a foot above the road, the wheels spinning in slow motion, the snow around it undisturbed. The second one rose next, then the third, all three headlights burning white through the storm. I looked back to the road ahead, and Hank's truck was gone, just vanished, like the road itself had swallowed it whole. The snow turned to fog, dense, glowing, alive with motion. The world outside the windshield pulsed with faint shapes, outlines of rigs, flashes of chrome, faces pressed against glass that wasn't there. Every hair on my arm stood up. The CB popped again. "You're doing good. Rafe, stay in line." My voice cracked when I answered. "Where the hell are you?" "Right behind you." I looked into the mirror. The floating trucks were closer now, close enough to see details through the fog, and that's when I realized they weren't trucks at all. Their bodies were twisted, half-melted, pieces of rust and chrome welded together like something built out of memory instead of metal. And inside each cab, I saw them. The other drivers, faces pale and still, their mouths moving silently in sync, like a chant I couldn't hear, "Stay with us." The words weren't through the radio anymore. They were outside, in the storm, whispering through the wind. I gripped the wheel and screamed, not from pain, but from the realization that I couldn't feel my hands anymore. The cab was freezing, air thick with frost. The lights behind me grew brighter, swallowing the mirrors. And from somewhere deep in the white, I heard another sound, the low rumble of more engines, a convoy, hundreds of them, rolling out of the storm. For the first time that night, I prayed, not for rescue, but for the courage to keep driving. Because every time I slowed down, the air around me whispered louder, "Stay with us and don't fall behind. Keep the line." The frost on the inside of my windshield began to form shapes and names, scratched by invisible fingers. Hank, Russ, Morales, the men from my convoy. And below them, a fourth name forming slowly, stroke by stroke, Rafe. I slammed the gas pedal to the floor and tore through the storm until my vision blurred. The last thing I remember was the glow ahead. Faint orange light. Maybe a service station before everything went white again. And for a moment, I thought I heard Hank's voice one last time. Convoy 6 still rolling, then silence. When I came to, everything was blue, not daylight blue. That strange heavy kind of blue that creeps over the sky before dawn, when the sun still feels like it's miles beneath the earth. My windshield was fogged, the wipers halfway up like they'd frozen mid-swipe. The truck was dead silent. For a few seconds I couldn't move. My body ached like I'd been clenched tight for hours. My fingers were wrapped around the steering wheel so hard that my knuckles had gone white. I was parked in the middle of the highway. No snow was falling anymore. Just a flat, eerie calm. The storm had vanished. The first thing I saw was the sign, half buried, bent sideways under ice. State Route 19, closed for winter. That made no sense. Route 19 had been shut down years ago after a bridge collapse. It wasn't even connected to I-90 anymore, so how the hell was I on it? I tried the ignition. Nothing. No click, no hum. The key turned too easily, like it wasn't even connected to anything inside. The heater was off, but the air wasn't cold anymore. It felt wrong. Still heavy, like the inside of a freezer after you shut it off but before the air starts to thaw. I climbed out, boots crunching into hard-packed snow. The sound echoed, faint, too clean. No wind, no other trucks, just a straight line of ice stretching into the horizon. I looked behind me. There were tire tracks, but not all of them were mine. They ran in perfect parallel lines, at least a dozen of them, vanishing into the mist. I started walking down the shoulder, flashlight beam cutting through the frost. My own breath trailed behind me like smoke. Every few feet, I passed something half buried in the snow. A broken mud flap, a piece of side mirror, a glove frozen into a curve like it still held a steering wheel. All of it looked old. Not hours, but years old. Then I saw the first truck. It was half off the road. Nose buried in a drift, its trailer bent at a brutal angle. Rust had eaten most of the paint. The logo on the side was just barely legible. Boyd Transport. I froze. That name again. I'd seen it scratched into a door weeks ago, back when the stories about Mile 117 started showing up on CB Chatter. Gary Boyd, the driver who vanished in a blizzard 15 years ago. His truck had been found weeks later. Door open, cab empty. The road had swallowed him whole. Now here it was again, and I was standing in front of it. I climbed the steps and pulled the door open. The hinges groaned like something alive. Inside, everything was preserved. Coffee cup still in the holder, half full of a brown slush that used to be coffee. Jacket hanging on the seat. A cassette still in the tape deck. Label faded to white, but there was something else, scratched into the dash. 4 words, deep enough to flake the paint. Keep the line moving. I backed out fast, heart pounding. My boot slipped on the step, almost sending me face first into the snow. That's when I saw the other trucks, not 1 or 2, dozens of them. Stretched down the road, nose to tail. Buried at angles like they'd all come to a stop at once. Old rigs, different makes, some missing wheels, others blackened by fire. All of them frozen in place. A convoy, the frozen convoy. The CB in my own cab crackled back to life. Convoy 6, you still with us? The voice was faint but clear, male, older. My blood ran cold. Hank, I whispered, we're moving out. Get in line. I turned toward my truck. Its headlights were off, but now the cabin was glowing faintly. A pale blue light pulsing behind the frosted glass. Rafe, the voice said, sharper this time. Get back behind me. We're rolling. My throat went dry. I saw you, Hank, I said. You were frozen. You're dead? No, he said. We're just stuck. You will be too if you don't move. The other CBs along the line began to hum, faint, overlapping voices whispering through static. Stay in the line. Keep moving. Keep the line. It was like a chorus, the sound stretching down the highway, filling the cold air with human noise that didn't feel human anymore. My knees went weak. I stumbled back into my truck and slammed the door. The glow inside dimmed to normal. The cab smelled faintly like ozone, sharp, metallic, almost like burnt copper. The radio was still on. The needle trembled on the frequency, shaking just enough to make the static waver like breathing. You can still make it, Hank said. You just have to follow. Follow what? The road you came in on. There's no road, Hank. I shouted. It's gone. Then make one. And then he said something that made my skin crawl. We don't stop. Not ever. That's the rule. I don't know what made me do it, but I turned the key again. The engine coughed once, gunned, and started. I swear I felt it want to run. The wheel twitched under my palms like something waking up. The headlights flickered, then steadied. Ahead, through the mist, more lights appeared. A row of them, dozens, all lined up perfectly, one behind the other. It wasn't possible. And yet, as I stared, I saw drivers moving inside each cab, shapes, faces, their heads all turning toward me at the same moment. As if waiting for a signal, I shifted into drive. The road wasn't a road anymore. It was a frozen plain, faint tire marks carved into the snow leading into nothingness. The trucks ahead moved in perfect rhythm, slow and steady. I followed. For a while, I tried to convince myself it was a hallucination, that I'd passed out and this was some kind of dream. Then I saw the signs. Every mile marker we passed was the same. Mile 117, over and over again. Each one identical. Each one frozen in place like the world was caught in a loop. I rolled the window down a few inches, enough for air, enough to listen. The cold hit my face like a slap. That's when I heard them. Footsteps. On the roof of the trailer. Heavy, slow, deliberate. One step at a time, pacing the length of the rig. Then another set. Then another. The sound of dozens of boots walking in rhythm above me, matching the hum of the convoy. Keep the line. Keep the line. Keep the line. The whispering bled through the static, through the snow, through my own skull. Stop it, I shouted into the mic. What the hell are you? The voices didn't answer, but something else did. We were drivers. Once a different voice now, not Hank's. This one was cracked and hoarse, like it had been frozen for years. They built the line in the storm. The company said keep moving no matter what. Some of us never stopped. I gripped the wheel. Who are you? Doesn't matter. You're one of us now. No, I said. No, I'm not. I'm getting out. There's nowhere to go. The fog ahead brightened, a faint blue shimmer spreading across the horizon like dawn light on ice. The trucks in front of me picked up speed one by one. The road beneath us cracked, groaning like an old glacier. The sound grew, splitting, tearing, until it felt like the world itself was breaking apart. Then from the fog, a shape appeared, a bridge or what used to be one. Its surface was broken, sections missing, steel beams jutting out like ribs. The convoy drove straight toward it without slowing down. I grabbed the mic again. "Stop, you're going over!" "We don't stop," Hank's voice said again, softer now. "Not ever." The first truck hit the edge, then vanished. No crash, no fall. Just gone, then the next. And the next, each one disappearing into the mist as if the world was swallowing them whole. And I was next in line. I slammed both feet on the brake. The truck skidded sideways, tires screaming against ice. The back end fishtailed, sliding toward the ditch. Then, the radio. A new voice. A woman's this time. "Rafe." It was barely a whisper. "You can still leave." "Who are you?" I shouted. The last one who tried. The mic fell out of my hand. The headlights dimmed, and in that fading light I saw her standing beside the bridge, hair frozen stiff, eyes gray, lips cracked from cold, her hand raised, pointing at the darkness below. "They don't crash," she said softly. "They just keep driving." Then she smiled, a brittle, dead thing, and stepped backward into the fog. Gone. The world went silent again, only my heart beat wild and shaking. I turned the wheel hard, forcing the truck toward the shoulder away from the bridge. The tires dug into the snowbank, grinding against ice until everything stopped. The convoy was gone. The lights, the sound, the voices, and all swallowed by the mist. For the first time all night, I was alone. I sat there until the engine cut off, staring through the cracked windshield at the endless white road. And for a moment, I thought it was finally over. But then, faintly through the frozen CB speaker, I heard it again, Convoy 6 still rolling. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the empty road. The snow had stopped, but the silence was worse. Heavy, hollow, thick enough that I could hear my pulse echoing in my ears. The fog was beginning to thin, revealing the bridge again. It looked smaller now, like a skeleton half buried in ice, and beyond it, nothing. No lights, no movement, just white. My hands were still shaking when I reached for the CB. "Convoy 6, I whispered, voice dry and cracked. "Anyone copy?" Static, then faintly, "Copy 6. What's your load?" The voice was calm, like a dispatcher doing check-ins. "This is Rafe," I said. "My load's empty. I lost contact with the others." "Empty?" the voice asked. "That's not right. Who is this?" A pause, then, "Freight control. Route 19 manifest." "You're late. I don't have a Route 19 manifest." "You do now." The radio hissed sharply and then stopped. A paper rustled behind me. I turned. On the passenger seat lay a clipboard I'd never seen before. Metal clip rusted, edges curled with moisture. A single sheet, typed, faded, but still legible. Manifest, frozen convoy route driver, R. Dean load, freight, your 117. Destination, line end. Status, in transit. There was a smudge of ink at the bottom. Right next to the company logo, Boyd Transport. My throat went tight. "Freight 117, I muttered. "What the hell is that?" The radio answered me. "You're carrying it." I glanced back toward the trailer. It was still sealed. I hadn't even opened it since I picked up the empty chassis in Sioux Falls. I checked the tag myself. "Return equipment, no load." "Bullshit," I whispered. But as soon as I said it, the truck shifted. The whole frame groaned, metal creaking like something heavy had just moved inside. The sound rolled through the trailer. A deep, dragging noise, slow and deliberate. I froze, staring into the side mirror. The reflection was nothing but black. Then another thud, closer this time. It came from inside. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed out. The cold hit me like a slap, hard enough to steal my breath. I walked around to the back of the trailer, boots crunching through snow so hard it sounded like glass breaking. The rear doors were iced shut. The seal tag, a thin strip of plastic with the company number, was snapped clean in half. Someone had been inside, or still was. I wedged the crowbar between the handles and forced them open. The hinges screamed in protest as the doors swung wide. The beam of my flashlight cut through the dark. The trailer was empty, no pallets, no boxes, just a floor covered in frost. But the longer I looked, the less empty it felt. My breath hung in front of me like smoke, refusing to move forward. The air inside the trailer wasn't just cold, it was dense, almost liquid. I stepped inside. The temperature dropped instantly. My ears popped. Something shifted behind me. When I turned, the open doors were gone, just smooth metal walls stretching in every direction, disappearing into white. I stumbled backward, trying to find the exit, but the space didn't behave right. Every step I took echoed forever, like I was walking through a tunnel that kept stretching ahead. My flashlight flickered. The beam bent, curving in midair like it was shining through water. Then faintly, I heard engines, a lot of them. The sound came from all around me, a low, synchronized rumble that built and built until the floor vibrated beneath my boots. "Hello?" I called. "Convoy 6, a voice said. It wasn't through the CB this time. It was right behind me. I turned, and there they were, rows of trucks, ghostly outlines glowing faintly blue, stretching into infinity. Each cab filled with frozen faces staring forward. Their headlights burned without heat, and their tires didn't touch the ground. In the lead truck sat Hank, or something that looked like him. His eyes met mine, and when he spoke, his voice didn't echo. It just appeared inside my head. Freight's moving again. I stumbled backward, but the floor pulled with me, dragging me along like a conveyor belt. The air roared and my flashlight went dead. "You broke the line," Hank said. "Now you're part of the freight. What does that mean?" I shouted. "What are you talking about?" "You didn't keep moving. The road took you." The trucks behind him started rolling, silent, endless, one after another, their lights fading into the fog. "It needs drivers," he said. "It needs to move." I ran, but no matter how far I went, I was still in the trailer. The walls just stretched, smooth and silver, rippling with faint reflections of faces that weren't mine. My head was spinning. My breath felt like glass in my lungs. Then, for the first time, I saw what was written on the floor. Words, carved into the frost in shaky block letters. "If you're inside, you're freight." I screamed and kicked the wall. My boot went straight through. Cold wind blasted my face on real air. The outside. I pulled myself out, landing hard in the snow behind the trailer. The doors were open again. The truck sat still and silent, but there was something different. The trailer wasn't empty anymore. It was filled with fog. Thick, swirling, breathing fog that pulsed like a heartbeat, and somewhere inside it, I could see shadows moving, men in driver jackets, eyes glowing faintly blue. The CB came alive again, loud enough to make me flinch. "Rafe," Hank's voice said, calm and cold. "You can't leave the freight behind." The trailer groaned. The fog inside began spilling out, rolling toward me in slow, heavy waves. I backed away, slipping on the ice. "I'm done, Hank. You hear me? I'm not part of this." "You already were," he said. "You took the manifest. You answered the call." The fog reached my boots. My skin started to burn. Not hot, but cold so deep it felt alive. I turned and ran. Snow crunched under my boots as I tore down the empty road, past the bridge, past the buried rigs, past everything. My lungs screamed. My body felt heavy, like gravity was trying to pull me backward, but I didn't stop. Not until I saw light. A single headlight in the distance, moving toward me, a snowplow. The driver slowed when he saw me, eyes wide. "Jesus, man, you okay?" he shouted through the open window. I tried to answer, but no sound came out. I must have looked insane. Face frostbitten, blood at my temple, clothes stiff with ice. He helped me into the cab, wrapped me in a blanket, and gave me a thermos of coffee. "You're lucky," he said. "Route 19's been shut for years. You shouldn't even be out here." I just nodded, staring out the window. The snow was falling again, and for a split second in the side mirror, I saw headlights behind us, dozens of them, moving in perfect formation. Then they were gone. The plow driver dropped me at a small diner off the main road, the kind of place that always smells like burnt bacon and old coffee. He said he'd call it in, send a tow for my rig. I thanked him, went inside and sat down at the counter. The waitress looked up from her notepad. "You're the second trucker we've seen this week," she said. "Last one never came back for his load." I stared at her. "What was he hauling?" She frowned, thinking. Manifest said something weird. "Freight number 117. The coffee in my hand went still. That night, in the motel room across the street, I couldn't sleep. The wind outside whistled like engines idling in the distance. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw blue lights moving through the fog. Slow, steady, endless, and sometime after 3 a.m., the CB I'd taken from the truck, the one I'd unplugged, hissed to life on its own. "Convoy 6, Hank said. "You dropped your freight." The air turned cold again. The mirror above the sink fogged. 4 words appeared, written in frost from the inside out. "Keep the line moving." I didn't leave the motel the next morning. I couldn't. Something inside me felt wrong, heavy, detached, like a part of me was still on that road. The world outside the window looked normal. Cars passed on the highway, sun glinting off the snowbanks, diesel fumes rising from the diner's parking lot. Everything looked fine, but every sound, every low hum of an engine, every crunch of snow outside my door, made my stomach twist. Because I knew the difference now. Real engines breathed, the other ones whispered, and I could still hear the whisper, faint and steady, somewhere far off in the storm. The cops showed up by noon. 2 deputies, young, tired, already suspicious. They'd found my truck, abandoned, doors open, engine cold, trailer empty. They wanted to know what happened. I tried to explain, the storm, the lights, the convoy, but I stopped halfway through. I could see it in their eyes. They didn't believe me. They just saw another sleep-deprived driver who lost his rig in a whiteout. So I nodded, signed their report, and let them leave. But as one of them turned to go, he said something that made my blood run cold. "Strangest thing," he said. "We found a bunch of old rigs down there, rusted clean through. Looked like they've been there for decades. Thought that road was supposed to be cleared years ago." He shrugged. "Guess they missed a few." Then he handed me something in a plastic bag. "Found this on your dash." It was the clipboard. The manifest. But the paper wasn't blank anymore. Next to my name, under status, someone had written, "en route." That night, I didn't sleep. I packed what I could and left town before sunrise, heading east, anywhere but north. I told myself I'd never drive again. But habits die hard. By the 3rd day, I was back behind the wheel of a rental truck, hauling a small load to Minnesota. Short route, easy miles. The snow started falling again around dusk. By midnight, I was the only one on the road, and when I saw the mile marker, I nearly drove off the shoulder. Mile 117. I slowed to a crawl. "No," I whispered. "No, that's impossible." The CB hissed softly. I hadn't even turned it on. "Convoy 6, I froze. You're late again." The radio crackled, spitting static that sounded like laughter. I shut it off, yanked the fuse. But the voice didn't stop. "The road don't end. Rafe, not for us." Outside, the snow thickened, swirling faster than it should have, almost like it was chasing me. I pressed the gas, tires whining against the ice. The highway stretched ahead in a long white line. Another mile marker passed. 117, then another. 117. They never changed. The lights appeared in my mirrors first. Distant, small, flickering blue. Then more joined them, one by one in perfect formation. The convoy. I gripped the wheel tighter. "You're not real," I whispered. "We're as real as you," the radio said. I floored it. The truck roared, gears grinding as I pushed past 60, 70. The snow turned into streaks against the windshield, but the lights didn't fall behind. They matched my speed inch for inch, and then one pulled up beside me. It was Hank's rig, or what was left of it. Half the cab was gone, metal peeled open like something had torn through it. His face was there, behind the cracked glass, pale, frostbitten, eyes glowing that same dull blue. He looked right at me. "We don't stop," he mouthed. The CB sparked to life again, even though I'd ripped it out. "Convoy 6, his voice said. "Keep the line moving." I screamed and swerved, nearly losing control. The headlights in my mirror multiplied, closing in, blinding. I could hear the hum now. Low, synchronized, vibrating through the frame of my truck like a heartbeat. Keep the line. Keep the line. Keep the line. The road ahead started changing. At first I thought it was just the storm, but no. The highway was bending, it wasn't supposed to. Route 22 was straight through to St. Cloud, but now it curved upward, rising in a slow, impossible spiral. The snow vanished. The stars went out. The asphalt beneath me turned pale, almost translucent, and I realized what it was. Ice, not fresh snow. Glacier ice, and beneath it, movement, shapes. Hundreds of trucks frozen beneath the surface, headlights glowing faintly through the frost, all of them moving slowly in circles. I slammed the brakes. The truck shuddered, fishtailed, then stopped just shy of a curve. Everything went quiet. The lights in my mirror were gone. The engine ticked softly, cooling. I was shaking so bad I could barely breathe. "Please," I whispered. "I just want to go home." The radio clicked one last time. "You are home," Hank said. "This is the line." The ice beneath me cracked. A sharp gunshot sound that echoed through the cab. The steering wheel jerked on its own. The gear shift moved by itself, sliding into drive. "No," I said, gripping it hard. "No, no, no." The truck lurched forward. The wheels spun. Outside blue light poured through the fog, bathing the road in colorless glow. I saw them again, the convoy, circling the spiral of ice. Rising slowly upward, one after another, each cab held a driver. Each driver stared straight ahead, and there was a space at the end of the line, waiting for me. I tried everything: ignition, brake, clutch. Nothing responded. The truck just kept rolling like it was being pulled by something unseen. The radio hissed. "Freight 117. Final manifest complete. Driver, Ardeen. Status, in transit." I slammed my fists against the dash, screaming until my throat went raw. But the world outside kept moving. The spiral of ice stretched up into a void. No stars. No sky, just endless white. And the convoy drove into it, disappearing one by one, swallowed by the fog. When it was my turn, the air grew colder than I thought possible. My breath crystallized midair and fell like glass shards. I saw my reflection in the windshield, my skin pale, lips blue, eyes starting to glow faintly from within. And somewhere deep inside, under the panic, I felt a strange calm, because suddenly, I understood. We weren't being punished. We were the road. Every mile marker, every line of ice, every whisper in the storm. We were what kept it alive. The endless freight. The ones who never stopped. The fog thickened. The dashboard lights flickered and died. All that remained was the soft blue glow ahead, and the voice of Hank one last time. "Keep the line moving, brother." The truck rolled forward, wheels humming, trailer groaning under invisible weight. And as I crossed into the white, I realized something. The road didn't vanish, it just started over. They found the rental truck 3 days later, empty, still idling in neutral on a stretch of unmarked ice road near the old Route 19 junction. The trailer was cold to the touch. The inside, empty, except for a single clipboard on the floor. Manifest. Frozen convoy. Route driver, blank load, freight Sir 117. Destination line end status. Awaiting driver and on the highway that night. Truckers swore they saw a long line of rigs cutting through the blizzard. Blue lights burning through the snow. Silent, perfect, endless. No one ever caught up to them. No one ever passed them, they just kept moving.